about 3 weeks ago, my cell phone stopped working. Verizon had a big outage. And ironically, my wife's cell phone, which was older, was working fine. And my daughter in Chicago, who has a newer phone, hers didn't work, but my daughter in Brooklyn, hers did. And so if you had an older phone, it was fine. But if you were fancy and had a newer phone, it might not that new, it didn't work. But it was kind of like made me think about all this. What happens when you can't communicate with people? And we could still text because we had Wi-Fi at our house. Anyway, you go to the this is one way to get here. You go to the Aries website. You can obviously just Google WinLink. It'll take you right there. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But if you go to the Aries website and you see this thing that says training, you click on that, go down here to WinLink. Now, there's several links here. One is to this video, which is really a well done, very basic, slow, here's how you set up WinLink for internet. And I like to say, you know, the best way to learn WinLink is to use the internet, and don't try to figure out how to connect your radio unless you already know how to do that, because that adds another layer of complexity to it. So anyway, you can go here and download it. You can go to this spot and click on download, and it'll take you right to the website. And it looks a little bit primitive, but you click down here where it says WinLink Express install. It's a zip file. You download it to your computer. There's instructions here on how to use it. Read the README file, install instructions. Very basic. You know, you just put it on your computer, you run it. Then once you get it on there, you have to register with the WinLink system in order to be allowed. You have to be a ham, licensed ham, in order to use it in the first place. And you have to create an account. It's all free, but if you want to support the WinLink organization, I think it's about $24. It's been like 5 or 6 years since I did it, so I can't remember exactly. I meant to say before, if there's any questions while I'm talking, just raise your hand right away. This isn't going to be questions at the end. As I'm doing this, if you see something you don't understand, just let me know. And I wanted to sort of have it be participatory. And this is really an experiment. I've never done this presentation ever before. I don't even know exactly what I was going to say, but I'm just, you know, going to go through this. So once you have WinLink installed on your computer, you get, of course, an icon. And you double click that and you open it up. And here it is. Like I said, it's an email program. Over here, can you see my pointer? Yep. Okay, so it has all the standard kind of features of an internet program. You've got folders where you can store messages that you've received before. You've got personal folders that you can create your own. And then there's a list of contacts. This is people that have checked into the net or whatever. Once you talk to somebody, they get put in your address book.
George, could you make your WinLink a little bit smaller so it fits on the screen?
Oh, yeah. How's that? Is that good?
Could you pull it left just about the width of the X?
Is that good? A little more? I can make it different size. I can make it smaller.
George. Want to put point on the...
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Is that gonna be, I was gonna try to click through stuff. Is that good now? I can't see the screen from here. Are we still off? Are we still off a little bit? Let me make it just a little. Okay. So anyway, you've got, you know, the usual kind of stuff. You can go up here to a message, and then you create a new message. And just like if you were using whatever you use for your email, here's the to field. You click to, and it brings up your address book, and you can pick somebody out here, and you can double click on them. And then you'll be able to send them a message. Let me just do this. So, you know, it goes there. You put the subject in here, and you put the body down here. And then you post to your outbox. And then when you go to send them, go ahead.
I was taking a note. How did you get to that new email?
Oh, right here where it's at the top, there's two ways to get there. One is to go to the top where it says message, click on message, and it brings up this menu. And the first thing is new message. And then the other way to get there, there's all these icons. You can click here. This is a new message icon right there. It does the same thing. A lot of this stuff, there's two ways to get there. This is the icon. This is to reply to an email. So see, now I'm going to reply to this particular email that came up if I wanted to. You choose an email here, and then you can click reply all. You can acknowledge the receipt. Sometimes people ask for acknowledgement. You click on that button. You know, all these things have icons on the top to show you what's going on. And anyway, you post it to the outbox. Once you have it posted to the outbox and you're ready to send it, see, there's one message in there. This is the message I just typed. And once you get that set up, you go up here where it says Open Session. Now, when you're just first starting out and learning this, and all you have is the internet connected, you want to use what's called Telnet WinLink. And that's basically using WinLink over the internet, which is fine if you have internet. Now, ultimately, what we want to be able to do is send a message in a total grid down situation. No power, no phones, no internet. There's been a major disaster in your immediate area. But it's a smaller area. So if you can reach out to somebody, I send messages, the WinLink net sometimes through somebody in Texas or somebody in North Carolina, or I go down to my friend in Arnold who has a local station, RMS station, which is a radio message server. And so you're connecting with somebody else who does have internet service at that point. And in a disaster, they will then get your message. They will put it up into the big system, which is the CMS, or Contact Management System. And that's actually run on the internet. It's now hosted in the cloud by Amazon Web Services, AWS, which is a major part of the internet. Once it gets up there, it can go any place in the world because it's on the internet now. You've managed to get from your place to somebody that's got internet, they send it up, now it's going wherever you want to go. You can send a message to if you've got kids, you want to let them know, I'm okay, there was an earthquake, but my house is fine, whatever. You want to call for help, you want to do anything. You can use that way to get there. So anyway, you just click on this, let me show you here. There's lots of ways to connect. There's Telnet WinLink. That's the one that uses the internet. Then you've got Packet, Pactor, Robust Packet, RDOP, which is a built-in HF connectivity. There's a couple of versions of VARA. There's all these other ways to connect. But you're going to just use, in this case, when you're first learning, you just use Telnet WinLink. And so you click on Open Session. When it's ready, you click on Start. And it's going to send this message off. And when it's done, it says down here, disconnected. Okay, so then you can close this up. And it's going to send that message. And I actually sent that message. Let me see where. Now it's been moved from the outbox to the sent items. And it's the top one right there. See where it says subject was test. That was the message I just sent. And I sent that to myself via a cell phone service. And I just got the message now on my watch, actually, which is interesting. But that's because my watch is connected to my email. I sent it to my regular cell phone text service, basically. So you can send it, if you know somebody's phone number and they're on the right carrier, you can send a message. Go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit about if we're out in the woods and we've got our radio on, how we use, what type of device we use to be able to talk to our computer to be able to send this data?
Well, you'd have the computer with you, and you need some sort of a box that goes between the radio and the computer. Now, some radios, like I've got an old Kenwood, my HF radio has a USB connectivity, and it's got a sound card built into it.
Okay, so it requires a sound card.
It does, and which is basically a digital to analog and analog to digital conversion, because the signals coming out of the computer are all digital. And that has to be converted to an audio signal in order to go across ham radio. And if you've ever accidentally turned your radio on when you're playing FD8 or something, you'll hear that all that weird noise. You know, that's the same with this. And the other end, they have to be able to receive that audio, that analog audio, and then it gets converted back to digital on their computer. There's a couple of different. If you don't have an HF radio that will connect directly, you can use a Signal Link. You can use a Rig Blaster, you can use DRA 50, which is, well, that's my specific one. You can use something from communications. It's basically an external sound card. And that's how you make that connection. You can actually set it up if you have the right stuff, the right little boxes and interconnectivity. You can set it up to go from a cell phone to your radio, to even an HT. Of course, with an HT, you're not going to get out very far, so you need to connect to a local person. In that case, you're going to use an FM signal to get there. But it is possible to do that.
And what frequencies would you use?
It depends. If you're on HF, when you open up the HF system, there's a thing that says channel selection. You double click on that, or you click to open it, and it opens up a whole list of people that you might be able to contact. It tells you what frequency you're on, what band, what mode, what speed, that kind of stuff. And that's pretty advanced now, but that's how you pick where to go. And it's got a likelihood of connection, like it rates it how easy it is to connect to that person based on the propagation right now, things like that. So it gets pretty complicated when you're up through an HF like that. If you're on VHF or UHF on local, 145.070 is kind of the common frequency simplex that's being used. I know the radio club out in Pacific has an RMS station that uses that frequency. There's one down in KD0BQS has a station down in Arnold that I know he has Starlink backup for his internet service. So he's got a lot of redundancy in his system. That's who I usually use, either him, the Pacific station. There's a guy over in Illinois about 26 miles away. I can hit all those people with VHF from my house. But sometimes I go with HF and I try to go really, see how far I can go just for the heck of it. And that's basically the basic system in a nutshell.
Can you talk about the weather maps that are available?
I will get to that in a minute. Is there any questions specifically? Go ahead.
We've got 2 nodes out in St. Charles County at the Emergency Management Center there
Oh.
that we're hosting as well.
Oh, okay. What frequency are you on there?
147.050 and 070, I think it is.
Okay.
Sorry, it's 030.
145.050. W0ECA is 145.050.
Yeah, I was kind of prejudiced. I mentioned the ones I can hit from my house. There's one at the EOC and for St. Louis County as well, but I can't hit them. There's something between me and them. I can hit people further away, but you know what it's like here with the terrain. You run into buildings, you run into the ridge, whatever. So anyway, let's see where we were here. There are a lot of very specific, because this was adopted in the 90s, it became kind of really adopted by the emergency communications people. And that's my big interest in it. I really became a ham in order to sort of give something back to the world, and emergency communications was my interest. I actually went to a presentation, like you mentioned, about 10 years ago. It was in this hospital, someplace, different auditorium over there. And the person that was there did the same sort of a thing. The one thing they didn't completely explain that I want to make clear is anything I do here can be done. I'm using the internet because I don't have a radio here. But you can do any of this stuff with a VHF, UHF, or HF radio. If you have internet, you want to use the best thing you have in an emergency. If you have internet, use internet. There's no reason you want to use a radio if you've got the internet, because the internet's really fast. Whatever you got, that's what you want to use. So in WinLink, for emergency communications, anybody questions? I'm kind of going all over the place here. Go ahead. No, you have to have an interface. Unless your radio has that built in, I think that's how the signal links work, or some of those, there's some of those devices that you actually use the audio out, but then you have to have rig control, cat control. I used to use a signal link, and then I upgraded to this other device, which is better, works quicker and more efficiently. It's all, I can't get into details of how to connect your specific computer to a specific radio because they're all really different. But if you go online, just go online and Google this stuff or look on YouTube. There's a ton of videos. That we linked to that one that was on the Aries site there. That's a really good one for if you've never used WinLink and you want to get it on your computer, install it, and use it. That's a good video to start with because it's very straightforward. He just talks you how to go through it. You've got to get registered within the WinLink system itself before you can use it. So that's, let's see. Let me just sidetrack to that for a second. This is where you can go here and you have to create an account. This is the WinLink site. This is the site that's by the WinLink development team has put up. The Radio Safety Foundation, if you've heard of them before. I don't know anything about them except for you see their name a lot. But the main WinLink site has a whole lot of information. It's got tools, news, positions, user programs. That's where you get the download. And here's the download. This book of knowledge is a thing that's just got all kinds of articles and information about that. Let me just do this. Here, I'm going to open up WinLink again. This is what you basically see when you first download the program. It opens up this screen, and you put in your call sign. You won't have a password yet where it says password. Is everybody seeing my? Yeah, it's okay. You know, it's got the basic stuff you put in there. You tell them what your grid square is. You use the service code down here of public and name and address, phone number, email, stuff like that. And you have to send a message to the WinLink system, and then it will give you a password. And then from then on, you use that password to log in. Or if you want to change your password, you can change it. Or anything you want to adjust, if you want to log into the WinLink system, you go there with a computer. That's not a radio thing. And you just use that to log in. So let's go look at some of the stuff, the emergency communication stuff that's built in. And I apologize, this is kind of all over the place, but I don't know any better way to do it than that. I got a message here, it looks like. Let's see.
For me,
Look, Mark sent me a message. How'd you send that?
Telnet.
See, he sent me a message. I already got it. I'd be glad to put you on there. And I appreciate you letting me use your SuperNode, by the way.
I'm glad we have it.
Yeah, me too.
So can you send an email from public internet to WinLink?
Once you send to them, yes.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just randomly send to you first, you'd have to send to me?
No.
Okay.
You can send a message from a public internet, or like whatever your email program is. If you want to send me a message and you're not in the WinLink system and you've never sent me a message before, there's a secret code that lets you send a message, and that's // WL2K, WinLink 2000, then a space, then KD0PMW@winlink.org. And that will let you go through. Once I've received a message from you, then you'll be in my whitelist. And from then on, you can just send it to KD0PMW@winlink.org. You don't have to put the // W2LK.
Oh, like his subject that he sent.
Yes, see how he put, I think perfect. There, you see how it says subject W, that's where you have to put it. I didn't, thank you, I didn't mention that. It's got to be you got to put the secret code as the subject for a regular email message. So you put that in there, // WL2K, and that tells the WinLink system that it's okay for me to accept that particular message. Now I'm going to go here and I will reply to him. And I will try to spell it properly. I can type really fast, I just can't type very accurately. And I'm going to post that to the outbox, and I'm going to open a session, and I'm going to send that. And I don't, what is this? Telnet connection, Telnet control, always connection fast, update. Huh. I'm not sure where that came up. Okay.
So how does a WinLink network, is just emailing back and forth as a group? For everyone to test their configuration?
Say that again?
How does your net work?
Oh, the net that I run on Wednesday morning, sometime between whenever I wake up and noon, I send out a call-out message, and it goes to anybody on my list. I've got a what's called it's a whole. Here, let me show you. Well, here, I'll just do it this way. No, well, basically, I have basically just a list with everybody's email that's on the thing. And I just click to send it to them, and it goes out to everybody. Each person gets an email, and it's just a call out saying, here's the net. You know, usually I have some sort of a lesson explaining how to use some particular aspect of WinLink or something interesting about WinLink. Usually I try to have an exercise. Sometimes if there's a national organization like the WinLink group that puts out frequently practice sessions, I might link to that. But usually it's just something I did myself explaining some weird aspect of WinLink, because there's a lot of stuff in there. It's a lot of details. And after you've been on there for a while, you start picking up all these little tips and tricks and stuff that I kind of, by the same way I learned it, which is just by looking around and doing it for a long time. And so you have from whenever you get that message until the next day, Thursday morning, usually I try to send the thing to report by about noon. Sometimes I let it go longer. So you've got almost 24 hours there. And you just reply to the message. You look at what I was doing. I might tell you to send me a message using a particular form. And I'll show you the forms here now. As part of the fact that this is used and been adopted for emergency communications, how many people here have had the basic ARRL emergency communication class, ECO, and any of the ICS, the FEMA classes? Okay, so you're familiar with those forms. So, where was I going? Well, we'll just keep going. If I want to create a new message, you'll notice up at the top there's a thing that says Select Template. Now, a template is a specific kind of a form that you can use. You go down here to Standard, and you go down here, and you see ICS, which is the Incident Command System, USA Forms. And there's a bunch of forms here that you can send. Like, here's a general message, ICS 213. If you've taken a class, you've certainly heard of this thing. And it's a very basic message where you know, the incident name, and it'll say practice net or something like that in my case. You send it to the person, the name, this is the standard stuff, and you fill this all in. And when you're done, you click on submit. And then you're looking at this right now in a web browser, but it's on your computer. It's not on the web. It's using the same browser I use, which is Fox Pro in my case, or whatever if you're using Edge or any Chrome. It's just using it because these forms are an HTML form. That's the code they're written in. You don't have to know anything about that. But the way this works is if you send this to somebody, it's a pretty big image, this whole file here. So if you send this to somebody over radio, it's going to take up a lot of time because it's got to send a picture, and pictures are big. It's basically going to send a PDF of this, and that's a big file. So what they've done is they've come up with this technique where I have all these forms on my computer. You have all the same forms on your computer. It's just built into WinLink. When you install WinLink, you get these forms. I send the message. It doesn't send the form as a PDF. It sends a little thing at the very top that says, hey, this is a 213. You know what to do. And then underneath is all the different things that you would fill in here as plain text. That allows the message to go through really quickly, not take up a lot of bandwidth or a lot of time. And on the other end, you receive the form, and it says, oh, I see what this is, and it fills it all in for you. Then you can print that out. And if you're in a situation where you're working with an actual group like the Red Cross, Emergency Operations Center, anybody, they're going to want these forms because they have to have paperwork. They have to have a way to show what's going on. They have to have a history of what's happened in this event. So now we're talking about what happens in an actual emergency situation, as opposed to just we're just practicing with this. But there's forums. There's one called the Great Shakeout, which is it's a forum that's Did You Feel It? And it's every year they have a special exercise on a particular date. You fill out the form and send it in. It goes to the USGS geological people, and they record. It shows that if there's an earthquake, you can get reports about what's going on. And there's a lot of other forums in here too. There's the American Red Cross forums. And some of these forums, like the 213, is basically the same as a regular ICS 213. And if you haven't had emergency communications, all these forums are mostly from FEMA, and they're the kind of things you have to use if you're actually acting in an official capacity someplace, working with an incident. And you've reported, and you're helping out with emergency communications, and they need these forms to go through. I need you to send a message to so-and-so asking for. There's ones to ask for supplies. There's ones, here's a daily shelter report, request, workflow, all kinds of stuff like that. There is radiograms. If you're familiar with radiograms, there's all these different, radiograms like this. If you've ever sent a radiogram, this is, what they look like. I don't know how many people here ever have sent radiograms or received a radiogram? A few. So this is the standard thing. You would need to fill it all out yourself. Same thing. This is an HTML form. You just fill out the stuff you would normally fill out. The number, the precedence, handling instructions, all this stuff. And then once you're done, you post it to your outbox, and it goes to the person that's being sent to, and they get all the stuff that it fills out on their end. They can print it out. They can do whatever they need to do with it. So where are we? I'm heavily involved with emergency communications, and again, this is one of those situations where we plan for the worst, hope for the best, is the expression. I've only been activated once or twice, and it was pretty casual, and it was a long time ago. I've never been activated in a situation where these forums were being used, but there were cases. Florida, Texas, Louisiana, the South, hurricanes down there, so they're very active with this stuff. And California, because of the wildfires, same thing. They're very active with this stuff. The emergency communications people in those places, the ARES groups, the RACES groups, other emergency communicating people, they're using this stuff actively when there's a disaster. Here, we don't have as much of a risk of a gigantic disaster. Even that horrible tornado that hit North City here, I didn't even know it happened at my house until later. And I was actually on the WinLink Skywarn net because we had severe thunderstorm warnings. I didn't know there was a tornado because by the time they mentioned it, it had already happened and ended. And that was a big problem in the city because they didn't, I guess you all know the alarms didn't work properly and whatnot. But that was a situation where, I had the internet. I had never lost anything. I could have done anything I normally do. But if there's a hurricane, it'll wipe out a whole region. You really got to be able to reach out far to be able to communicate. And that's when this stuff really pays off. Go ahead.
Can you flip over to, instead of Telnet, go to VARA HF and show the channel selection?
I don't know if that'll work without a radio. Let me try.
Well, it won't connect, but.
No, it'll. Yeah, okay. I use, if I'm on HF, I use just a single cable, USB, from the radio to the computer. If I'm on VHF, I use a cable that connects to an external sound card, and then that connects to the radio. Wait, open session. Okay, we're on VARA HF here. We're going to open a session, and it's going to tell me it can't find my device. Unable to connect radio serial port, blah, blah, blah. This is how it normally would have connected to my radio by now. But I can't do that. Now, here's the place where he was asking about channel selection. Oh, it does show that. Okay, good deal. So here we have the possible people I could connect to. And here's the path reliability estimate. 99, and that's 80 meters. Mode, there's different speeds here. We've got 270 these are more complicated things, but there's basically different speeds you can be operating at depending upon your connectivity and what people offer. And you can see here the distance is 36 miles. There's 40-meter ones. Let's see if I can make this a little bit wider. All right, so here's KD7 UHR. He's over in Illinois. He's got a pretty decent station over there. I've connected with him before. And you just go on down the list here, and you can sort these lists by clicking on the top. And as you get further away, now we're going 492 miles away. It's still 81. I mean, it depends upon the time of day and the propagation and whatnot as well. But this is where you go, and if you find somebody you want to connect to, you just double-click on them. And now it would normally put their information up here, and you could go ahead and connect, but I have to select here. Again, this is failing because I don't have my radio hooked up, but normally my Kenwood TS590S is the one I'd be connecting to, and I'm using 7600 baud. That's the speed between the radio and the computer. And it's ready to go, and I click on go, and it start, and it would send a message. But
I'm going to explain quickly what VARA is. It's a separate.
Oh yeah, VARA is a separate thing. And you can download it and use it for free, but it's mainly meant to be for testing purposes, so you can decide if you like it. It's become kind of the standard for high-speed communication using WinLink, and it's developed by a Spanish ham. And I think when I paid for it, it was $70, and that's a lifetime purchase. It's not a subscription, and it covers both VARA for FM local stations, which is what I use, and HF. The license covers both of those modes, and it's basically just a particular mode that the radio uses when it's communicating with the other radio. And I think the way it works is that there's a certain limit to how wide a bandwidth you can send a signal. And what VARA does, is my understanding, this is a rough understanding, is it sends multiple signals. Each one of those individually is not breaking the signal restriction. But combining them, they kind of split the load between all those connections, and they get the message to go through faster. And it's become sort of the standard. Like, I always use that one for the most part. Every once in a while I use packet, just to keep the packet system available. But the VARA has really become the sort of gold standard of what they use. So I use that all the time. And you have to have, again, all these different modes will work with the connection you've established. Once you establish a way to connect your radio to the computer, you pick the mode and it just uses that mode. And it's kind of the way it sounds more than anything else, the audio, under the hood. Go ahead.
The VARA FM can be used for long distance also, can't it?
Well, yeah, you can go as far as you can reach.
You have VHF radio, and that's going up to the internet, and it's going out.
Say that again?
The VARA FM, I connected through the W0ECA,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've talked to Texas off of that, so it'll go long distance.
Oh, I see what you're saying. What mode are you using for that?
With what?
Which mode are you using? You just sending in individual messages, or you say talk to them, you actually mean you're just going to send them a message, right?
Right, send a message.
Yeah, okay, so you're connecting to locally, right?
Right.
So you're not really talking to Texas with radio, you're talking locally to radio.
I'm sending a text to Texas.
Oh, okay, huh. So is that going, but are you sending it directly to that station, or are you sending it to a RMS?
I'm sending it to a gateway.
Okay.
Fallon.
Yeah.
That's going out the internet, and that's going to the.
Right, okay, that's exactly the way I was describing, is that you're not really actually talking to Texas directly, you're talking to somebody close by, goes up to the internet, comes down over in Texas, it's coming out of the cloud, and going to his radio, or if you're sending a text, it'd be his computer or his phone. And it's kind of like, that's how it works, basically, is you get to somebody that can get up to the internet. And once you're on the internet, you're really talking over the internet. But you can talk to what's called P2P, or radio to radio, rather than going to anybody else. I'm going to hook up my radio. I'm going to open up a P2P session, which means you and I could send messages back and forth, and it just goes directly from my radio to your radio. Doesn't go to the cloud, doesn't go to an RMS station to get to the internet or anything. It's direct radio to radio connection. That's been used less often, at least for our purposes, because a lot of people can't reach my station. I have done a little bit of experimenting with that, both on HF and VHF. But in that case, the way it works is you can open a session, a P2P session, which basically means your station is ready to receive anything coming in. And now I can put a message in my outbox, in a P2P message, which is a special kind of message, and it'll be sitting there, and my radio not doing anything. If you connect to my radio, it will automatically go, oh, I've got a message for this guy, and it'll send you that message. I could have 10 different messages to 10 different people in there. It will only send the message to the person it's addressed to. The rest of the messages just stay there until they get picked up. And that's something we haven't played a whole lot with, because everybody that I'm dealing with, for the most part, is more just starting out, so they don't have as much connectivity maybe. It's hard to hit, it's a little bit trickier. I have done that a couple times on HF. And ironically, there's one person I've done it with on HF that he can't get through on VHF for some reason to do it. But that's a very useful feature for this stuff. Okay, let me get back out of here.
It sounds like the satellite stuff where you send the message up and when it finally gets over India, you can connect.
Yeah. Oh, like a ham radio satellite, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm not sure how that works, to be honest with you. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff in here that's more stuff you don't use all the time. Like here's something that's kind of interesting. I actually just discovered this more recently, and it's a mapping system. And if I go down here and I display the map, you see how I can select blood availability. These are all different things. A local weather report, ICS 213. These are all forms. And if I display the map, now it's going to show me all the people that have connected to my station. There's Dolores. Does anybody know how Dolores is doing, by the way? She's a member of this club, right? Not to change the subject. Well, we shouldn't talk about that since you're recording it. But anyway, so this is here's a message that was from Field Day. And if I zoom out, you'll see that these are all people that have connected to me from, here's somebody from Florida. And these are all.
Connected to you. What do you actually mean? I'm not quite.
They've connected to me, not directly, not P2P. I'm sorry. This is just connected during the WinLink net. These are people that are in other places that are part of the WinLink group that check in every week and send a message. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was kind of misleading, but I'm not sure if there's a P2P thing in here, because I just discovered this the other day. Let's see.
For your net, are they sending it over HF or VHF or through Telnet?
They can send it any way they want. If you have HF, you send it through HF. If you don't have a radio to send with, you send it with Telnet. You can send it to FM. You can send it to any station that you can connect to. If you're on HF, you can send it to anybody in the country, and it'll come back to me, because eventually it goes up and becomes a regular internet message, and then it comes back to me. This is not P2P now. This is the normal operations. P2P is the one that's different. That's like, okay, we're only using radio, and it's just you and me back and forth. Nobody else is involved. No internet, no AWS. It's just radio to radio. Go ahead.
Do you know if that mapping functionality would work if the internet was down, or is that kind of on?
I think from what I understand, since it's picking it up, I think it's picking it up from my computer, from my system. My system keeps track of everything I've ever talked to. I don't know that for a fact. I'd have to check that out, but I'm pretty sure that's not required the internet. It's just looking at my system. I actually am connected to the internet, so I think it seems pretty fast. I don't think it's using the internet. But there's, I mean, we're kind of jumping all around here. I hope this is not too confusing. Go ahead, please.
Do you have any idea if I would ever be able to connect with WinLink on an Apple device?
I wish.
I don't seem to think that's going to work.
I'm, to be honest with you, this is the only Windows machine I have. I don't use it. I'm an Apple person. I've got several computers. I'm a musician. I'm a photographer. I do all this stuff with Apple machines, and there is a way to do it, but you have to sort of like fake it. You know, there's those programs where you can run Windows on a Apple computer, but they don't work so good. And also, then when you're trying to connect the radio up, it becomes really complicated, from what I understand. I never tried it. I think there's something called Wine, maybe, Basecamp or Bay something or other. Has anybody done that with a Mac using? Yeah, there. Supposedly the WinLink development team is working on a program for Apple computers. I haven't seen it. There is a person in Hawaii, an emergency communicator person, who came out with an app for iPhones and iPads called Radio Mail, and you can use that for Telnet, no problems. But to use it with a radio, you have to have a Windows machine that's running a WinLink instance. And then you connect over your local Wi-Fi in your house with your phone or your iPad, and it's actually basically operating that Windows machine remotely. So it's not really using a Mac, you know, in the classic sense. But you can, you know, sit in one room and get your messages, or if you're on Telnet, you can just get them from anywhere, and they will come through just like you were on a Windows machine. But so far, I haven't seen anything about anybody developing it. So
I don't suppose Linux is even being.
I think Linux is used. I don't know Linux, but I think Linux is used a lot. I think.
Try to set it up. In fact, if that's the case, I should be able to make it work on like a Chromebook too. So that's my coming project. Oh well, yeah.
Yeah, I think Linux is.
But Linux does
yeah.
work. I've got a 20-year-old laptop on Linux. So
There's something
should work.
called PAT, P-A-T.
Right.
What's that? Do you know what that is?
I can't remember what the acronym stands
No, I mean, what is it used? Isn't that a?
It is a client, just
It's-
like this.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. That when you hear the word client, the WinLink program is a client, and we're going. You know, where does that term come from? Do you know offhand?
Client versus server.
Yeah. Client versus server. That's yeah. So there's a server, and you're the client of that server. You're getting stuff from them. So yeah.
There's like 2 or 3 programs you got to set up to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Pat's one of them. But this WinLink 2000 program seems to be the one that's. Have you used Pat?
I've just started looking at it, and I have not had a chance to do it.
Does it have the forms in it? Do you know?
Supposedly it has a
You
full.
can. It doesn't come with it by default.
Ah.
Go download this, pull the forms out, and then it can read.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the forms. All these forms are just files. When you install it on your computer, there is a folder that's got all the forms in it, and they're just HTML files. The nice thing about WinLink is when you log onto WinLink, it'll say, oh, there's an update to the forms, then it'll just automatically update them. And if there's an update to WinLink when you first log on, it'll say, or when you first open the program, it'll say, oh, there's a new version. And you just click yeah, and it updates it right there. But you're right, and you can create your own forms. I have not gotten to the point of being able to do that, but you can create your own forms if you know how to do HTML. Or they're basically just text files. And you set them up the way I haven't gotten to that detail yet, but you can set them up. We need guys like you that really know what they're doing to get us get that stuff going.
There is one cool thing about Pat. Since that runs as a process on the Linux server, it acts like its own web server. So that means even if you're using a Mac or it doesn't matter what. If I use my phone, I can still access that device, that server, running this client and send and receive, even if I'm not there.
There's somebody that checks into the net every week or frequently who's using Pat. And I need to get in touch with him and get some more information about that. The program I mentioned, the radio mail program for the phone and for the iPad, actually has all those ICS forms built into it as well. So you can actually fill out a form like that. And if you're not involved with it, directly with emergency communications, that doesn't mean as much to you. But those forms are a critical part of the infrastructure that's going to be employed if we ever have a big disaster. And in our case, I'm sorry? Radio Mail is the program, and it's available for the iPad and for the iPhone. And it's pretty inexpensive. I think it's about $15. I actually was a volunteer for the beta testing, so he gave me a subscription for free. And he's developed a bunch of stuff to, he seems to be really, again, Hawaii, what goes wrong there? Oh, we got hurricanes, we got volcanoes, we got all kinds of stuff. So they're very active there. And he's got a bunch of stuff he's developed for like headless computers, which is just basically a computer without a monitor and a screen. So he can be in the field and send reports and use WinLink and with an HT. And if you look online, how do you connect an HT for WinLink? There'll be all kinds of little program or information there that tells you the kind of there's like little devices you have to get to hook things together. Again, I have a setup what I use. I've got either the direct connection with the HF, or I've got using the DRA 50. I've got with my VHF. But there's ways to do it with an HT. And again, it's hard to come up. I can't tell you about all those things, but if you look online, there's a lot of information on there.
I bought a DigiRig.
That's it.
And the cable for the ICOM 2730 mobile, and I got that set up, and I can run the VARA FM off of that directly into my computer. Works really well.
Yeah. The VARA is great. Yeah, VARA is a really nice program. Go ahead.
Looks like you're running Win11.
Oh, yeah.
You ever have any trouble with the WinLink with that? Because
I haven't.
I've got a bunch of different radios, and they all had different dongles. And when I hooked the one up and tried to run the WinLink to my 991 and stuff, it took Windows 11 down.
Oh, interesting.
And on the internet, that seems to be kind of a common problem. So
I have another computer that's too old to be upgraded, and it runs in Windows 10. You can actually run WinLink all the way back to Windows 7, but you're not going to be getting the updates. And actually, I don't know. Microsoft announced they were going to, deprecate Windows 10 updates for security and everything as of next month. But then everybody's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" So now you can get it for another year, either for free or you can pay $30, or there's various different ways to get support still for another year. But at this point, it still runs on Windows 7. And like in my case, I'm just using it for WinLink. I'm not doing anything like, don't go and browse the internet or do anything else with it. So I'm not overly concerned about, I've got Windows security on there, but I'm not overly concerned about picking up viruses and stuff. But this one is 11, and I upgraded. I was very nervous about upgrading it, but I upgraded it to 11, and everything just worked the same. I didn't have to do anything weird. So this has really become the let's go all over the place and see what's happening kind of a presentation. So I hope this is making some sense. Any specific questions about what you're seeing here on the screen? Again, let me see if I can find a form from okay. Here's the people that checked in this week to the WinLink net. Now I'll click on this one right here. And this was Teak Phillips. And this is what the message looks like as just a raw message, It's got a header, and it's got, all this information here. It's just very crude. But you'll notice on the side here, there's a little thing. Now, if I click on that, it's going to use my browser to open up the message and populate this form. And so this is a standard WinLink check-in form. I use this a lot, and it basically just tells lets people check in. It looks like he didn't make it. He said on the end there, "Good luck on Friday. I'm not sure if I'll be able to attend." But anyway, this tells me his latitude, his longitude, all the stuff that would normally be in there. If you have a GPS connected to your radio, or if your radio has a GPS, there's a place in WinLink software where in the settings where you can set up to always include your GPS. If you don't have one set up, you can go in and enter the information yourself manually, and if not, it'll just basically defaults to your grid square. So it gives people an idea of where you are. And that's probably where they pick up that information you're asking about for the map to display it. So again, with these kind of things, like I have to file a report and tell the Aries leadership who checked in this week. So the way that works is I just go and let's see, it's under messages, and the form for doing that is, a Form 309 communications log, which is another one of these ICS forms, and it opens up this form, and it'll generate this form automatically. And you can do it as a PDF file, or you can do it as a CSV file. So if I go here now, if I generate this 309, it's going to go through and look at all those people in that folder, which is the one I chose. I chose the folder where it is. You can define this by all different kinds of parameters: start date, end date, various different things. And I don't know why it's taking so long. Usually it's pretty quick.
You didn't set a start and end, so it's going through all of your messages ever.
No, it should be just going for, see right here, task ID, blah, 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 blah. Where is it? It's only picking the people from this folder.
Oh, okay.
So you can define which folder to look at or anything else. So it did work, and here it is on my desktop. And if I open that up on my browser, instead of me having to go in and write this in by hand or type it in by hand, it automatically generates this form. And then I can generate this as a PDF, which is what this is, or I can generate it as a comma-separated values file, and that gets uploaded to our Aries website, and then that is a report. They know who checked in then. And I'm getting people from New Jersey, Idaho, Utah, Florida, Sappington, all over the place. But there's not a whole lot of participation yet with this. It's a bit complicated, but just to get it set up and working for using Telnet, it eliminates all the problems you run into with the radio. Start out by just getting this program installed for free. Try it out. See if you want, you can always email me at using that code //W2LK at KD0PMW.org. That's the subject line. You put that in the subject line, /W2LK, and then you just follow that with KD0PMW space KD0PMW at WinLink.org, and let me know, and I can put you on the list. And I like I said, I send out every week. I send out a lesson talking about some specific detail of how this works. I've got a lot of people that just started out, and now they've been doing this I've been doing this for a couple of years. So it's the only problem I have is there's people who just started and never used one. Like there's people that could probably be the net control operator and talk about this the way I am because they've been there for a lot. Some of these people are actually involved with emergency communications. But the whole idea is you want to have an established group of people that are checking in. So if we do have a situation where I can't get to anybody locally, I know there's some people. Here's a guy in Idaho. He's probably not going to be affected by the earthquake here. So he'll have internet connectivity, so I can always send him a WinLink message on HF. That's the theory. We'll see how well all this works when there's actually a real disaster. It was used before. It's been used like down in the South Texas. Like I said, there was a big winter storm in Finland, and they used the WinLink extensively because they lost a lot of connectivity, the trees across railroad lines, big waves and stuff. And that was this year. And they maintained communications, were able to do a lot of stuff with using WinLink. So it's being actively used in disasters more and more. But this is we're really on the very early stages, even though this was originally developed, going back as far as the original concept was 1985, became really popular in the late 90s, hence the name WinLink 2000. and it's just been getting developed more and more. And the ICS system, the internet, the incident command system, which you learn about in the emergency communications classes, it's all being picked up and trying to be established. And there's currently a movement in the state of Missouri to try to establish a network of WinLink operators who can connect across the state. Because SEMA here, Section Emergency Management Association, SEMA, a section is what a state is called in emergency communications terms. I mean, most sections are an individual state, but some sections are part of a state. That's why it's called section instead of a state. But the State Emergency Management Association here, and if you want to send any requests to them in Jefferson City, it's got to be on WinLink. That's what they're going to use is WinLink. There's some people down in more close to the actual New Madrid fault who are trying to establish within their community down there, like a bunch of people that do WinLink and trying to hook into what I'm doing and what our local areas is doing. And I just thought of this. It's a complete sidetrack. That's the way my brain works. The frequency that I use, 145.070, is only one of the possibilities. The Emergency Operations Center, the Aries people, they have they use a different frequency out there. I don't know what it is. It's probably like just off a little bit, like 145, I don't know, 7.5 or 8, something like that. I can't hit them, so I don't remember what it is. Anybody else know what that is by?
I think it's 05.
05, okay. And there's various different places around. I don't know them as much because I can't hit them, but what's the situation with, were you the one that was working with them on that?
I was working with Steve on the one on the Red Cross.
That's the one, yeah.
Okay.
Is that one, what's that one?
That one's on 07, I thought.
145070?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the same as what I'm on. Is that back up? Do you know? Yeah. Okay.
He was working on it, and they said, okay.
Yeah. Well, I know that at the operations center they picked a different frequency because the concern is that if there is a problem, if everybody's getting on the same frequency trying to use WinLink, it's going to be jammed up just like anything else. I mean, it doesn't take an emergency for things to get jammed up. My daughter, I told her I was doing this. She said that they went to the New York City Marathon, and she was with some friends, and they couldn't communicate anymore because there were so many people trying to communicate at the end of the race that the self system was overcrowded, and it can only handle so much traffic simultaneously. And that's not even a disaster. That's just lots of people getting on because of an event. This has been used for events such as bicycle rides, things like Pikes Peak Rally, things that happen once a year. Field day it's used. You can actually get extra points on field day for sending a certain number of emergency messages. And I do that with WinLink. You can send those messages anywhere, but every year for our club we do field day, and I send those messages via WinLink to get the extra points. How are we doing on time here?
Yeah.
Who's worn out besides me? How about some specific questions? Go ahead.
I have WinLink set up for my HF radio, ICOM 7300, but I can't connect to any gateways. No matter which ones I pick, it says disconnected. It goes through as the disconnected.
Oh.
I can't figure out why.
Boy.
Any ideas, anybody?
Disconnected and fails to connect.
Well, it shows that every one of them is busy, disconnected.
Okay.
Now, I have run into the situation where I'm trying to find a clear station to connect with. Not that this is necessarily what's going on with you, but I can't find a station where it's not already busy. And if you try to communicate on a station that's busy, it'll tell you, it looks like this is busy. Are you sure? I'm sure that's not what your problem is.
I'm feeling it's probably more antenna related than it is radio related.
Well,
What band, what time of day?
80 meters, 40 meters, 10, 20, depending on the time of day.
And it's the same behavior.
Same behavior across all the bands.
That's where I get stuck, because I can't get anything in the same thing.
Have you tried just listening by ear to hear if you hear any digital traffic? Do you hear them?
But I've actually gone, where it says select channel?
Yeah.
There's also a function where you can scan channels. And and I've just let it go down the list. Every
Really?
single one of them say busy disconnected. Gotta be a setting somewhere, or it's gotta be the antenna from what I can gather.
Maybe setting up a point-to-point connection with someone that you know you can hit via RF, just as a test.
You can try that. That's why I bought the DigiRig and put it on the VHF radio, because I can't get the HF to.
Where is that feature for scanning? Is it underneath the channel selection here?
Yeah, if you go to channel, well, no, if you, close that, auto connect. You click on auto connect and go down through the list.
Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah, yeah, I see that now. Wow. Thanks, I didn't know that. See, I learned something already. I actually learned quite a bit just trying to go through and figure out what I might talk about for this. Yeah, HF is definitely more problematic. You've got the problem with propagation and oh, I know. Somebody asked the question before about weather. There's a feature, interestingly enough, because so many sailors use this, blue water sailors, which is what they call it, sailors that are out in the middle of the ocean, that you'll see things in here that refer to something called sail docks. And let's see, where is this? Here we go. Under WinLink catalog requests, here you go to settings, go down here to WinLink catalog requests. Now here's a bunch of stuff where you can choose, you know, let's see how much ice is in the Arctic Ocean. Well, that's not going to be too important for us. Indian Ocean. Here's the thing that's for propagation. What's the propagation like?
What about the hurricane that's in the middle of the Atlantic?
Is there one there now?
Yeah.
Okay, here's Bermuda Maritime.html, Bermuda Marine Forecast. So now I double click on that. And now I'm going to post request right here. And that's going to put in my outbox a message to the system. Yeah, good call. And it's going to send out a message to the system asking for this information. And it takes a few minutes sometimes for it to actually reply back. But eventually, usually I just wait, but if you just keep hitting start, eventually you'll get a message.
While you're waiting, for those that aren't familiar with this, your mail message is limited to 120K. Unless you're on a, like, Ethernet network kind of a thing, like Arden, where if you're running your own post office, you have a limit of 5 meg.
So there's definitely no file attachments, no
Well,
pictures.
you can do file attachments, but
Very small.
it has to
Yeah.
be small.
Yeah, there is actually a way to take a photograph and have it compressed down to small. I mean, it's very tiny, and send it through the system. But speaking of post office, if you use Gmail, you know, you get your Gmail. You go online, or if you're using a mail application, you go get your email and you get it. You look at it on your computer. The email stays up there because it's IMAP. This is POP, Post Office Protocol mail. So this is like, I like to think of it as plain old post office. Like in the old days, if you got a letter, you went to the post office, and you take the letter out of the box, and you go home and you read it, you can't go back to the mailbox and get that message again because you got it out of there. That's the way this works. Once you get the message, it's gone out of the system. It's not up there anymore. It's on your computer, but it's not, it doesn't stay up there. All right. Sometimes this comes through a lot quicker. Just all depends. Let me try a new session. Oh, there it is. Okay, now we've got a message back from the system. in our inbox. And here it is. Now here's the URL where you could go to get something, but here's the forecast, covers an area, blah, blah, blah. Small craft warnings valid for Sunday night, marine synopsis, tonight, wind. So it's a whole weather report for that particular area that you asked about.
Could you very quickly go back to where you selected that?
Yeah. Yeah, when you're in the main program, this is the program when you open it. Go to settings, and then down here there's something called WinLink Catalog Requests. And you click on that, and this opens up. Now, over here on the left, these are all categories. And a lot of these just have one in there. Now here's something, this is a weather, East Pac, that's East Pacific. And you've got each one of these is a separate thing you can ask for. Southwest Pacific Surface Analysis, Western Tropical Surface Analysis. These are all, again, relating back to sailing. Here's France, Great Lakes. Here's U.S.
Do you have to do this each time you want an update?
Yeah. Yeah, you go in and if you say I want to see what the weather's like in Missouri. All right, so here's the category Weather X U.S. Missouri. You can get a tabular state forecast for Missouri, a zone forecast for Kansas City, zone forecast for St. Louis, or a zone forecast for St. Louis. You double click on that and it puts it over here. Then you have to go to the post request. Now here's an interesting thing, as long as they're right here, you can update via internet. And what that does is it updates the catalog here. You just click on that and it updates this catalog and it makes sure it was successfully updated. And if you haven't updated it for a while, it may remind you to do that. Otherwise, you may ask for something that's no longer there, and that just ties up the system. You can also actually request the update via radio, which if you're out in the middle of the Atlantic and you don't have internet, now we have Starlink and all these other ways to get to the internet, but originally those were not there. Let me go ahead and get this message sent, again with Telnet. Now we're gonna have to wait for a while for that to come through, so I'll give it a minute. Sorry?
Yeah, it didn't get posted.
Oh, whoopsie. Oh, it didn't get posted?
Nope.
Okay. So there's a good example of what not to do. It's really easy to mess up like that. Where did it go? Okay, so here's our thing. I was so busy showing you that other stuff, I have to post the request first. Then it'll be in the outbox. There it is. And if you look at this message to see what it says, you see it's just it's being sent to something called inquiry, which is built in of the system. It's a request, and here's what I'm asking for. Now I could put in several other things right in the same email, asking for a map or some information or whatever, but we're not going to do that. But it's possible to do that. Post that to the outbox, open the session, and I'm going to start that. Thank you for pointing that out, by the way. And there's other stuff too that this is not quite as, the graphical interface here is not quite as slick as some of the other things you use. You know, it's pretty darn good for free, but like for instance, let's go to the, my inbox. And let's say I want to move this message. I'm going to save this message for later, so I want to move it to my my test folder. Now it didn't go anywhere yet, even though you have to remember to click on this button to move it. Then it'll move. Now it's down there. And here's the global folder, test. So there's that actual forecast got moved down there. There's other things you can't really expand. You can't change the size of these windows. you know, you have to just scroll down to these system folders. These folders and the system folders are all folders that are built in and you have no control over. The personal folders, on the other hand, are your own personal. These are all ones you define yourself. And the way you do that is you click here on personal folders and you add the new personal folder, and it's limited to 24 characters, you know, update it and then it's there. If you want to remove a personal folder, you have to select the folder from the list, and then you have to remember to click on update, and then it will actually remove that. There's a lot of things that take 2 or 3 clicks instead of just being what you would think would be one. That's not unusual. Now the thing down here that says global folders, and again, these are all the system folders. These are the personal folders. These are the global folders. A global folder is a folder that anybody who's on this computer can use. Now, I can go up here where my call sign is, and right now I'm looking at my account, my messages, my stuff. If I click on here, I could go to another call sign. This is our club call sign for K0LIR. Now, this is telling us that we didn't pay for it yet. This is what you get if you haven't paid for it, because these guys haven't paid for it because they're not as much into emergency communications yet. But if you don't actually buy the program, register it in the, it's registered in the system and it works fine, but it's in demo mode. And I'm sure you've seen this kind of stuff with other programs. You can just say, remind me later. If you had registered, you put your registration key in right here and you'll never see that message again. But now that I went over to this other call sign, see, there's no messages here. You know, there's these global folders as messages. And there's messages in here that we sent during field day. But I'm not seeing my personal messages. These are all messages sent under this other call sign. And so the purpose of the global one is, let's say I want to send a message, or I get a message and I want them to be able to see, somebody else to be able to see it. I would just put that message into the global folders here. I would save it, move it to this folder. Then anybody who gets onto this system and logs in to this instance of WinLink would be able to see that folder. So it's a way to share folders and to have other folders that are your own personal, or other messages that are your own messages, not shared with everybody. That's more the kind of thing you would run into if you were called into the Emergency Operations Center. You're going to be using it there. You bring your computer, you just log in with their call sign, and it's a way to have, you know, access for anybody on the computer can access that folder, but they can't access your personal folders. All right, let's see if our other message came through. Bless you. And there it is. All right, and this came from the service. That's the WinLink system. Source system downloaded from this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's our forecast, including Alton, Edwardsville, Bellevue, Cahokia, Patchy Fog, blah, blah, you know, this normal stuff. And you can get that for any place, you know. If let's say you're going on vacation, you want to get what's the weather going to be like? I mean, you can obviously get this stuff other places, but it's all built into this. And it's the kind of stuff that's more important if you don't have normal connectivity. Think we had enough of this? I'm pretty exhausted.
Let's call for questions, probably.
Oh yeah, please.
We still have budget.
Questions? What?
We still have to do the budget.
Who has questions about the budget? Hold those questions. Any other questions on WinLink? Nope. Okay. Well, I hope you got something out of this. I've never done, like I said, I've never done this. Thanks for being like guinea pigs in my experiment of how to teach this, because I'm trying to get a handle. I'm not really somebody who gives presentations that much, but like I said, Art asked me to do it, so I volunteered to do it. I was volunteered to do this.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Oh, it's an amazing system, and it's hopefully. And if you're interested in the net, just send me a message. Put it in the subject //W2LK, and then in the address it to. I'm sorry, that's the.
Or send an email to info, and I'll forward that message on.
Well, I mean, if you send it to my call sign, KD0PMW @winlink.org, in the subject line, WL2K, that tells the WinLink system that I've given it permission to accept that message, and I will accept it. And once I get that and reply to you, you'll be in my address book from then on, and you don't need to put that in ever again. It registers that call sign. And
That's documented on the STL Aries site too, because it was there when you were.
oh, yeah. All this stuff is documented, including instructions on how to do it. There's a whole lot of really good stuff on the YouTube channels. A lot of people that are doing stuff with this, that are trying to expand the uptick to it. So just go looking. It's all there. And even stuff. Have you ever used Perplexity? Have you tried asking it about that problem you were having with the HF?
No, I haven't.
Because I've gotten some pretty sophisticated answers, not about radio, but about some other highly technical, older stuff.
Problem with Perplexity is you have to know exactly what to ask to get the response you're looking for.
Yeah, that's true. That's called prompt engineering. That's a very good point. Thanks for taking the time to let me blither on about this. I really appreciate it.
I'm sure we all learned something.
And hopefully we never need it.